Hello.
So we watched another documentary
Yes.
about shark superhighways and tiger or hammerhead sharks.
Different
Different
yes.
sharks.
Hammerhead sharks.
They're awesome.
They're really. It was another one of those nature documentaries that kind of made your head explode at certain points, but it was really interesting. Some of the neurological things that I think hammerhead sharks are able to do are really, really cool.
It's the idea that they have. First, they smell in 3D, and if anyone can answer what smelling in 3D is, like they get a gold star, and I'll take you out for coffee or something.
We were confused.
Yeah. So is it like I don't even know. Somebody answer what smelling in 3D is. But like all along their long noses, like they have a lot of like sensors.
Electrical sensors.
Yeah, and they can like couple of different theories. One is that like they hook in with like Earth's magnetic field to navigate, which is awesome.
Awesome. And that they seem to like volcanic islands, which evidently leave more of a magnetic trace to navigate, which is really cool. And they showed that they move in sort of these very sort of straight lines along the ocean and through ridges in sort of surprisingly like navigating ways. Yeah. Like you're not just
they
swimming.
know where they're going.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. We learned terrible facts about shark sex because
nature documentaries are fun.
Yeah, evidently with hammerhead sharks in particular, one of the things the men like to do is to get a group of men. And I'm gonna just go with gang rape. A female shark, and that the litters of the pups that the hammerhead mothers end up having have sperm from multiple different fathers.
No, that was the tiger sharks, or different, because the hammerhead sharks had the females were in control, or the dominant primarily in the group. Yeah, and they usually have litters with a single father, which is better
because the women get around the whole gang rape phenomenon by swimming in large groups, where they are more protected. And supposedly only the dominant women really get to get it on then in the groups. But people aren't gang raped, and they don't. Evidently, the male sexual organ in sharks has like spurs on it,
and it's ew.
Ow! Ow! Sensitive area. I mean, by all accounts, in all animals, must be true.
Yeah.
So they can just get really horribly hurt. So less sex, but less rape. So trade-offs.
Yeah.
The animal kingdom is a beautiful place, you guys. I mean, it was actually kind of cool to see that it was almost like a societal thing.
Mm-hmm. The idea is that there was a lot of cool like discovering, because the hammerhead sharks is like the sharks we really want to know about because they have much larger brains than other sharks and really developed frontal cortexes. So it's like yeah, and so it's the idea that they are social creatures, and we're still figuring out like we have to go back and talk about this crazy scientist, because the whole reason that he started figuring out what was going on was because in the 70s he free dived around tiger sharks and hammerhead sharks, and because free diving is like scuba diving, and so you just go down and you go up on a single breath of air. And he swims through these sharks, and he hangs out with them, and then he goes back up. And he was telling a story, and he was like, I was surprised I survived. And I'm just like, there's a trend of crazy scientists in the marine biology world.
Yeah. Oh, another thing they did was, evidently the hammerheads really don't like the sounds the scuba tanks make. Mm-hmm. So you can't use your scuba diving gear around them, so you have to free dive, and they're tagging them. So they're going up to these very dangerous sharks on a single breath of air and just being like, yeah!
Jabbing
and
them.
And then swimming back up. And it's just like, it's the worst idea you've ever had. No fatalities that we saw anyway. I'm not convinced they would have told us.
No.
They probably would have just like gone on. I'm not kidding. They were intense. We really liked, there was a marine biologist, she was Australian, very, very into sort of the shark brain and had all of them on display. And the hammerhead it's quite large. It's got many folds. So they're very agile. I think compared to other sharks, watching the way they move, they just sort of can twist their entire body, and it's really cool.
The cool thing with with the head is that they use it as a tool. So like they'll pin down whatever
Like
they're
a
trying
manta ray.
to eat. Yeah, like a ray, the polka dotted ray.
It ate you, Bridget.
I'm so sorry.
Baby, we were sad.
That doesn't make sense if you haven't seen the blog post. Go catch up. So it pins down the animal with one part of its head, and then it comes through and like swoops and takes a bite out of it, like as it turns.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it actually is really cool.
But you don't. Like, okay, if I was going to pick what shark I wanted to be in the water with, I wouldn't necessarily go with hammerhead because they can turn around like and
Kill
come
you.
and eat you in like half a second. It's like, okay. And they were watching, there were pictures of the ray before and after, and it was just like this size
Cookie cutter
bite out.
chunks.
Yeah. There is actually a cookie cutter shark, and it just like, there are these really cool, well, probably not to the people who experience them, but really cool pictures of just like chunks of flesh being gone. It looks like someone took a cookie cutter into the arm. It was just like, yeah. That's what cookie cutter sharks do.
Good to know. Fun
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. Like sharks.
I think like the like main point of this film was tagging tiger sharks, because like they're like the basic tags, but that's just, which is like
Hammerheads, I think.
hammerheads. I keep on going back.
Yeah.
Sorry. Where there were ones that like they jab them and they swim away, and that's one type of tag. But there was another type of tag which is more permanent, which goes on their dorsal fin. And hammerhead sharks are interesting in the sense that they have to be constantly swimming forward in order to breathe, in order for like water to go over their gills. And so in order to tag a hammerhead shark, you have to lift it up and out of the water, get it down.
Stick a hose in its mouth so the water is over the gills.
Yeah, and
It doesn't suffocate.
there's something you had to do it in like under like 4 or 5 minutes in order to have it not die. And it's because these are all conservation societies, and so it's like if they brought a fish out of the water trying to save it and track tag it, and it died,
Yeah,
it
there's
would
gonna
be
be
a
trouble.
horrible
Yeah.
scandal. But
So
they successfully did it with 2.
we saw some nice footage of the hacking off of the fin process.
Yeah, that was gross.
for the commercial fishing of sharks for shark
Don't do
fins.
shark fin soup.
Don't. It's expensive. I doubt it's that good, and it's just it's wrong. They cut off the fins and then they
Put it back.
yes, to attract more sharks rather than fish, and so they can't swim, and so they just sort of sink. It's all these like bloody finless bodies.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they're working with conservation right now is that thinking about like dividing up portions of open ocean that are highly populated by endangered shark species and such that are just like, you cannot fish here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be enforced if they decide to actually do it, which I think would actually be much more practical. Like, just as you have land reserves, why can't you have ocean reserves?
And the concept, too, it was called the Shark Superhighway, is that there are these areas that tend to be very populated by sharks, and that's how we should, to track them, we can then know what to protect. And I think sharks really should be protected. They're very, like, medically promising.
Yeah.
Sharks don't get cancer, I believe. I'm remembering this from, like, 4th grade. I'm marine biology, so I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure they don't. And so I think they've been around for 65 million years, which is a long time. I think I said 75 million years in the last video.
What's 10 million years, give or take?
Yeah. And they're just very, very interesting little bastards. Anyway, there's about 40,000 species of fish, in case you were wondering.
It's a lot of fish.
It is. What else did we learn from the documentary? They have very long orbital nerves. Because their eyes are all up here.
They also have these pores, which is how they detect the magnetic whatever's going on.
Which, to me, is cooler because it's like a parallel to like skin, to the sensation of touch. And it's not cool. It's more easy to imagine. So that brought it home a little bit.
And it's so highly concentrated in hammerhead sharks, which is why they're so promising, is that like these are the smart sharks.
Yeah.
And because they're less prominent, like they have them on rays and other sharks, but they're less prominent and less densely placed all over their skin. So it's interesting.
It was a good documentary. It was quite stressful to watch, to be honest. But if you're interested in the subject, I would recommend it.
Oh, fun fact: when you flip most sharks on their back, they pass out, like they go into
very
a trance.
zen.
and just-
Yes. I don't know what that is.
It's
It
interesting.
might be a breathing thing.
Yeah.
It's not true. But that's not the point.
Fun fact. So, if you're ever in a shark incident,
Flip it over. Yeah. That won't be hard, right? You can do that. Easy peasy. So, yeah, hammerhead sharks. Pretty nifty.
right.
Goodbye.
Bye.